Okay, guys, we are going to do the map of the United States in 1790. It's on page 143. All right. I'm going to use pens to label my map so you can see it easier. I suggest you use a pencil. If you need a pencil, come get one. Okay, and we're going to start looking at number 1. It says label each state on the map. Which 2 states had the largest populations? Okay, so in order to label each state on the map, you can look at the book on page 143. I'm going to start labeling in the north, and I'm going to go south. So at this point, 1790, Massachusetts still includes Maine. So I'm going to start there. Then I'll do this one, which is New Hampshire. All right. This little one here is Rhode Island. Me too. And this one is Connecticut. Connecticut. What's this big one here? With this long island. New York. Look, it's a way to remember it, okay? Can we remember it this way? You'll never forget where New York is now. The Long Island. What is this? Pennsylvania. Okay. This one is New Jersey. Okay. This one that has the L-shaped boundary is Delaware. This one is Maryland, the one with the Chesapeake Bay. Now this little part here is actually controlled by this big state, which is Virginia. And the next map we do, you're going to see Kentucky, Tennessee, and then, you know, eventually we'll add Vermont. Maine will become a state, all right? Which one's this? North Carolina. South Carolina. And Georgia. All right. So we've got our states. Now it says which 2 have the largest population. So if we take a look at this, we're going to look at the first map on page 143, which is population in the United States. And if I look at the key, I'm looking for the highest number of people is in the purple states where it says more than 500,000. So that's Virginia, right? And then the next color, 400 to 500,000, and that one is Pennsylvania. If you have trouble seeing the colors, you probably want to let me know, because I know that color blindness can be difficult, and these are reds and greens and browns, and so they might blend together. So if you're having trouble, just let me know, okay? All right. I don't know why they always insist on doing maps in reds and greens and browns. So those are the colors. So which 2 states had the highest populations? Virginia and Pennsylvania. All right. The next one says locate and label the nation's 5 largest cities in 1790. Which cities are they? And in which state is each located? Make sure you list them here, okay? Not just label them. So I'll put cities in a different color. I'll use purple. And we'll take a look at this. Now, more than 10,000 people is the biggest dot that we see. So we're going to look for the biggest dots. And it tells us that the nation has 5 largest cities. So there should be 5 cities with the biggest dot. So yeah, I like to start in the north. We'll start with Boston. Yes, and I know it can be hard to see all these different cities, but this one here is Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Charleston. Good. So on your map, Baltimore, and Charleston. Okay. All right, next. It says to list them out. So make sure you list all the cities and you list the states with them, okay? The next one says how many of the nation's 24 largest cities and towns were located in the South? All right, so I'll give you a hint. If there's a dot on the map, it's one of the nation's 24 largest cities and towns, okay? So you need to look at how many were in the South. How do we know which one, where's the South? Where's the South start? What state? What's the northernmost southern state? Nope. Nope, Maryland, okay? So you might remember this when we did colonial regions. We had 3 regions. We had New England, the middle colonies, and the southern colonies. Well, the southern colonies are still going to be the southern states. So we're going to start with Maryland South, and you're looking at how many of the nation's largest cities were there. So we look, here's 1, Baltimore, Alexandria is 2, Richmond is 3, Petersburg is 4, Norfolk is 5, and Charleston is 6. So we've got how many? 6. Okay, so number 3 is 6. So by far, most of the big cities were in the north. All right. Number 4. After Charleston and Baltimore, how large were the South's next 4 largest cities? And in which state or states were they located? For number 3? Well, how many of them were in the South? We just counted them. Look at, no, how many of the nation's 24 largest cities? So I said every city on here is one of the nation's 24 largest cities. If you counted every dot, there'd be 24. So how many of them are located Maryland South? That's 6. That's number 3. Okay. Number 4, we want to know how big are the next ones. So what size are the dots? And look at in Virginia. You've got some in Virginia here, right? The dots are 2,500 to 5,000. So they're not even the middle tier cities, right? How many of them, or how large were they? 2,500 to 5,000 people, right? And in what states are they located? They're all in one state. Other than Maryland and South Carolina, where are all the other cities in the South? Look at the book. No, Pennsylvania's not in the South. We're just looking at the southern states. Now, on your map, if you want, right now, so you can remember this, If you want to take a color, I'm going to take orange because I think it'll stand out. But if you want, we can draw a line like that. Okay? When I draw that line, everything south of this line is the south. Everything below that line is the south. So if a question asks you in which region of the country was it located, if it's below this line, it's the south. If it's above this line, it's the north. Okay, that way you can keep that straight in your head. So they're all located in Virginia. Okay, lightly shade or outline the states where slaves were 20% or more of the population. And in which region were most of these states located? Yeah, so when we look at this, we're not going to be on this map anymore. Okay, so on this one, we're going to be looking at the map at the bottom that says slavery in the United States in 1790. And if you look at the key, 20% or more are all the purple states, right? The green states have 20% or less. So it says to lightly shade in all the states with 20% or more, and that means you're shading in all the states in the, can you just what? You can, but it says to shade it, so I think you should shade it. You just use your pencil, lightly shade it in. All of these states had more than 20% of their population had slaves. So if you take their total population in that first map and you subtract their percentage of slaves, you'll get their percentage of free people at the bottom. Now, what region of the country are all these states in? The South. So at this point, the South is the region where we see slavery, and the North is the region where we see slavery disappearing. Delaware stands out because Delaware has a tobacco industry. So they're going to be one of the only northern states that maintain slavery. So go ahead and answer the question, in what region in the nation were most of those states located? And number 6, which states had few or no slaves in their populations? All right, are we going to include Delaware? Look at Delaware. Because we're looking at little or no slavery, we're looking at dark green. Delaware is light green. Delaware, like I said again, Delaware is going to stand out in the north because Delaware has a tobacco industry. It's named after Lord Delaware, who came to Jamestown in 1619 when tobacco came to Jamestown. Okay? So these are the slaves in the north that do not include Delaware. So go ahead and answer number 6. Okay, you're looking at all those dark green states. So just list them out. Number 7 says, how many of the nation's 24 largest cities and towns were located in states with few or no slaves in their population? Okay, are any of them in Delaware? Are any of the big cities in Delaware? No. Okay. So how are we going to figure out the answer to this question? We could count every dot, right? Do we have to? Why? We can subtract 6. Look at number 3. We said how many of the nation's 24 largest cities and towns were located in the South? The answer to that was 6. again, look at Maryland South and count the dots. There should be 6 of them. So if we're looking at this one, how many of the nation's 24 largest cities and towns were located in states with fewer no slaves? We're just going to take 24 minus 6, and that's going to give us 18. You can count all the dots if you want. It'll give you the same number, okay? So that one's 18. All right, now in which states did slaves count for about 1/3 or more of the state's population? So now we're looking at, we're gonna look at the 30% to 40%. So it's all of them except for which one? North Carolina. It's all the southern states except for North Carolina. Georgia, South Carolina, Virginia, and Maryland. Good, write them down. That means in those states, if you took their total population, more than 1/3 of their total population were enslaved. Now, do you remember the 3/5 compromise, where the southern states or the slave states were able to count 3/5 of their slave populations? All right. So if 40% of their population are slaves, and we're counting 3/5 of them, that's going to seriously drop their population if we didn't count their slaves, wouldn't it? Look at Virginia. Virginia is our highest populated state. How many slaves does Virginia have as a percentage of its total population? More than 40%. That means half of Virginia's population is enslaved. So if we take a look at Virginia's free population, we're looking at 400 to 500,000. What's Virginia's total population? More than 500,000. Can we figure out what Virginia's total population is? Yeah, we could. We figure it's about 900,000, right? And if we take away 40% of that, we got about 500,000. That means Virginia's would drop from the #1 spot to what spot? Pennsylvania would have more people than it, right? So it would no longer be the most populous. Pennsylvania would. Think about how that would change elections. If the Electoral College is based on this population count, if the number of representatives in the House of Representatives is based on this population count, this means that these slave states are going to maintain power based on the fact that they're counting their slaves as people. Otherwise, you see the growth of the cities in the north, right? We see population growing in the northern states. The population in the southern states that is growing is not the same group of people. All right, look at the last question. Circle the names of the southern states whose population ranks would be affected by a system that did not count slaves as part of a state's population. There, okay, and so then we've got to figure out how would the population rank of each state change. Okay, so this is where you have to look at just the southern states. So we're only looking at the purple states, right, on this map. If you go back to your other map, if you drew the line for north and south, it makes it easy. So you're just looking at the southern states. Look at each one's total population. Look at its free population. And how would their population rank change? Now, the first thing you can do if you want is rank them 1 through 13. And see which one's the highest, which one's next, and go on like that. And then you can see how their rank would change, okay? You want to do that together? All right. Okay, I'm going to stop the video here. So if you are at home doing this, remember, you are going to list your states in order of their total population. Then list them in order of their free population. How does their population rank change? And remember, for states, we're only looking at the southern states to see which ones would change, okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the video now, and we'll figure this out.